All right, let's jump right in. Welcome to This Explainer, where we're taking a close, structured look at the reality of raising pigs. Taking on livestock is an amazing journey. There is something deeply satisfying about raising your own animals and seeing the whole process from your yard straight to your freezer. But, as we're going to see today, it requires navigating some serious financial and emotional pitfalls. If you're going to take the leap into pig farming, there are just some mistakes you simply cannot afford to make. Here's our roadmap for today. We're covering the high stakes of hogs, beating the heat, avoiding reaction farming, hygiene and containment, and finally, the danger of delayed castration. Section 1. The high stakes of hogs, protecting your financial investment. Before we even touch on the physical mistakes, we've got to talk dollars and cents. $939. That is the out-of-pocket cost to raise just 2 Berkshire pigs for 3 months, taking them from weaning up to processing age. Livestock mistakes don't just cost you time, they burn through serious cash.
So where exactly is all that money going? Well, you've got about $454 going straight into organic, non-GMO feed. The piglets themselves, that's a $300 initial buy-in. Then throw in $185 for health maintenance, stuff like kelp, apple cider vinegar, and diatomaceous earth. But here's the real kicker. This $939, it doesn't even factor in the cost of water, shelter materials, processing fees, or your own sweat equity. Making a mistake here is a risk to a massive, multi-layered investment.
Moving on to Section 2, beating the heat, managing the physical environment. Managing their physical environment is honestly our first massive pitfall, especially if you're in a southern climate where it's easily hitting 100 degrees by June. Now, think about us humans. We cool down by sweating through our skin, right? Well, pigs literally cannot sweat. They are biologically incapable of doing it, so they absolutely require mud wallows to cool their bodies down. Skipping the wallow isn't just a minor inconvenience for them, it is a lethal mistake. To dodge that catastrophic heat stress, you need a multi-layered approach to water. That mud wallow, non-negotiable for cooling their skin. Beyond that, standard water bins do work, though they get super messy, super fast. The gold standard, though, is a 55-gallon drum equipped with a water nipple. Set that up, and you ensure free choice, clean water all day long. Honestly, hydration and temperature control are your absolute first line of defense. Section 3. Avoiding reaction farming, proactive housing and shelter. Let's talk about reaction farming. It's defined as scrambling to build a pig hut or a shelter right when a storm is already hitting. We've all kind of been there in our heads, right? Picture yourself out there in the freezing rain, trying to cobble a roof together because your animals are completely exposed. It's incredibly stressful, it leads to shoddy construction, and it puts your animals at real risk. You have got to avoid this trap. Build proper housing well in advance of the weather turning bad. So, what does proactive shelter actually look like? Well, you've got 3 really solid options. First up, scrap huts. Think shipping crates, scrap metal, or those large plastic liquid containers known as IBC totes, just screwed together. They might be ugly, but if they're built early, they work. Option 2, cattle panel hoops. Just grab some 16-foot cattle panels and bend them over T-posts to create a shaded arch. And third, porta huts. These are pricier, sure, but they're built like tanks and you can move them around easily. And here is a massive pro tip. Placing any of these in forest shade instantly drops the ambient temperature by 10 degrees or more. Where you place it is just as important as the structure itself. Section 4. Hygiene and containment, mastering daily operations. All right, shifting gears from infrastructure over to daily operations, we have to look at poor fencing. Because containing a 250-pound animal, that takes 2 distinct strategies. First, you need a physical barrier using hog panels. Unlike cattle panels, hog panels have these really tight gaps at the bottom to keep the little piglets inside. But pigs are smart, and they're going to test that physical barrier. So you also need a mental barrier, an electric wire run inside the panel. And here's a fascinating takeaway from the source material. Plugging an electric fence straight into an AC wall outlet is way more powerful and reliable than a solar charger. One good shock, and it teaches the pig permanent respect for that fence. Now, beyond the fence, your day-to-day routine is what dictates the health of your investment. You got to muck that paddock regularly. Believe it or not, pigs are actually quite clean animals. They'll usually designate one specific spot as their bathroom, which makes cleanup a whole lot easier if you just stay on top of it. You also need to rotate their paddocks using hooks and hot wire so they don't absolutely wreck a single piece of land. And when you're tossing them kitchen scraps, make sure they're balanced. Never ever give them avocado pits, fruit pits, or coffee grounds. And a great rule of thumb to remember, when in doubt, just toss some more hay to keep them happy and healthy. Finally, Section 5. Danger of delayed castration, the emotional climax. This next part, it's a difficult topic, but it is one of the most critical aspects of animal husbandry. What actually happens when you wait too long to castrate male piglets? Look, procrastinating in farming doesn't just result in a loss of money. It brings harsh, real-world consequences for the animals in your care. The golden rule for castration timing is simple. Do it early when those piglets can still comfortably fit right in your lap. Waiting until they are older and larger is a massive mistake. When the testicles are too mature, the procedure leads to severe complications. In our source material, a farmer actually waited too long on a pig named Lightning, and that delay caused immense swelling, a suspected infection, and eventually poor Lightning lost all mobility in his back legs. Even with antibiotics and doing everything possible to save him, Lightning suffered and sadly did not survive.
The farmer shared this incredibly raw reflection afterward. He said, "I know that you can't have livestock without dead stock, but this one hit hard. This one made me want to quit." That is the intense, heavy emotional toll of a completely preventable mistake. When an animal suffers because of poor timing or just a lack of prep, it impacts the entire family, especially if kids have grown attached to the animal. It is a stark, sobering reminder that structure, planning, and taking action on time, those are acts of care.
Look, raising pigs is incredibly rewarding. It fills your freezer and it connects you deeply to your food source. But man, it demands your respect. It requires you to know the financial stakes, to master the environment so they don't get heat stress, to build shelters way before the storm rolls in, to secure your perimeters, and to do your husbandry tasks on time every single time. So my question for you to take away today is this. Are you ready to plan proactively, avoid these heartbreaks, and protect your homestead investment? Think on that and let it guide your next steps. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.